That concern on the federal level at least started with Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, who told the Parliament yesterday that Premier Daniel Andrews had some explaining to do on this proposed legislation that would extend Victoria's state of emergency by a further 12 months. This morning, in fact, Prime Minister Scott Morrison weighed in, saying that he also had concerns that he'd raised directly with the Premier. Take a look.
So I've raised our concerns with the Premier about that. I did that directly. I know others have. I know other Labor figures have, and I think it's important to dispel any uncertainty and get clarity around that issue. I think people are concerned that the lockdowns would extend for another 12 months. We received many calls through offices right across Victoria, including in my office as well.
Premier Daniel Andrews has responded to those comments from the Prime Minister, saying that while the two do work well together and speak regularly, they don't see eye to eye on every issue. Take a look.
Oh, we talk often. We send messages to each other often. As he said today, we don't necessarily agree on every matter, but we're working very closely together. He doesn't have to deal with these sorts of issues, and there are a whole lot of things that are on his plate that I don't have to deal with.
Ash, Victoria's current state of emergency expires on the 13th of September. That's when the 6-month legal limit comes to an end, and with it, effectively, all those restrictions that are currently in place, the legal mechanism allowing the enforcement of these stage 4 restrictions effectively evaporating once that state of emergency comes to an end. Proposed legislation would see that extended by a further 6 months. However, that, in its current form at least, looks dead in the water. The opposition will oppose it. Key crossbenchers as well have come out in opposition to it, saying that a further 12-month extension, I should say, is simply too much to ask for. They're asking for a regular parliamentary oversight of this state of emergency, be that every month or every 6 months. The Premier is saying that negotiations are productive at the moment, but he is hopeful the legislation will pass by the end of next week. Take a look.
I can report to you that we're having very, very productive discussions with the crossbench, and I'm very hopeful that we will get we will get an outcome that allows the Chief Health Officer to continue to do his important work, allows all of the team to continue to make decisions based on science and evidence that are proportionate to the challenges we face, that will underpin us opening up.
Now, as well, Ash, today, some pretty interesting developments out of the Parliamentary Estimates Committee, a parliamentary inquiry into the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic here in Victoria. Emergency Commissioner Andrew Crisp has really been front and centre today, asked about the involvement or lack thereof of the ADF in the state's bungled hotel quarantine program. Now, Mr Crisp has stuck to a previous statement that he released, saying that ADF never offered help with the implementation of that program, nor was the help of the ADF sought by the Victorian government or by Commissioner Crisp. This is in stark contrast to statements from the Department of Defence, the Defence Minister, as well as the General in charge of the Australian coronavirus response with regards to the ADF. When asked about when the decision was made, again, he said it came down to that meeting on the 27th of March at the State Control Centre, but he's passed the buck essentially to the Department of Jobs, saying that by the time that meeting was happening, the Department of Jobs had already made a decision to use private security as the main security force in these quarantined hotels. Take a look.
The decision to use private hotel security guards, were you aware at the 27th of March meeting why that decision had been previously made?
No, I wasn't.
So how did it come up at that meeting then? We've been told that was the decision was made at that meeting. You're telling us in a different way that it was actually already made prior. Surely someone said, who's going to look after this?
So in that meeting, a representative from DJPR spoke about having already done the work in terms of the end-to-end process, including private security, and what had been put in place for this particular operation.
Ash, the Department of Jobs bureaucrats from that department are due to face the separate hotel quarantine inquiry tomorrow.